Hey Fast Track, in today's video you're going to be learning about the laws of sine and cosine. So before we do the new lesson, let's review real quick. So for example 1, I need you to solve for the value of x. So go ahead and pause the video and solve for it. So since it is a right triangle, of course, you're giving a leg, you're trying to find the second leg, and you are given the hypotenuse. So of course you do Pythagorean theorem. So 3 squared plus x squared equals 25 squared. So if you do the math, you'll get x equals 4. So for example 2, go ahead and solve for the value of x. So pause the video, try it, then come back. So for example 2, notice that this triangle is not a right triangle. So therefore you are not able to do trigonometry. So you are not allowed to do SOHCAHTOA. And since it's a right triangle, you can't use your special right triangles. Anyway, this is a 35, so you wouldn't even have thought to do that. So that's where the new lesson comes in, finding the missing sides or angles for triangles that are not 90-degree angles or right triangles. So let's start with the law of sines. So the law of sines states the following. So first of all, let's go back to our triangle. Remember that the uppercase represents angles and the lowercase represent the sides. So the sides across from that angle. So for the law of sines, I need you guys to remember this. We'll already have it here. So for the law of sines, we're going to set up a ratio using two of the following. So it depends on what you're given. So you might be given angle A, side A. You might be given side B and you're trying to find angle C. So of course you'll only use these two. Let's say you're given side A, angle A. And you're trying to find angle C, given side C, so you'll use these two. So you can use any combination of these three right here. So this is the law of sines, finding angles and sides for triangles that are not right triangles. So here's our first example. If the measure of angle A is 37 degrees, and if the measure of angle B is 68 degrees, and side A is 3, find side B. So let's draw the picture. So here's my triangle, and I'm going to label it. This is A, B, and C. So the given measure of angle A is 37 degrees. Measure of angle B is 68 degrees. Side A, so side A is across angle A, so that's right here, that's 3. Find the measure of side B. So that's what we're trying to find. So let's go back to our law of sines. So we have to use two of the following. So we are given measure of angle A and side A, and we're trying to find sine side B. So we're going to set up the following ratio, proportion. Sine of angle A over A equals sine of angle B over side B. So let's plug it in. Sine of angle A, which is 37, over side A, which is 3, is equal to sine B, which is sine of 68 over side B. So you have a proportion, so go ahead and solve for it using butterfly method. So you get B sine 37 equals 3 times sine of 68. So get the B by itself. Divide both sides by sine 37. So B is equal to 3 sine of 68 over sine of 37. So let's put that in the calculator and we should be done with this problem. So 3 sine of 68 divided by sine of 37. And of course, let's make sure this is in degrees, since that 68 and that 37 are degrees. You haven't learned about radians yet. So the answer is 4.6 if we round to the nearest tenth. So we use law of sines to solve for the side B. And again, you use law of sine whenever you do not have a right triangle. So example 2, given the following, find the measure of angle C. So let's start with the picture. Let me label it. So let's label the given. Side B is 17, that's across the angle B. Side C, which is here, that's 14. The measure of angle B, which is 92. And we are finding the measure of angle C. So the theta right here. So since we are given angle B and side B, we're going to use sine of angle B over side B is equal to sine of C over side C. And again, we're given the B and we're trying to find C, so we use this proportion. So let's plug in, let's substitute. Sine of angle B is sine of 92 over side B, which is 17. Sine of angle C, which you don't know, divided by the measurement of side C, which is 14. So let's set up our ratio. Let's solve our proportion. So to solve for C, the angle, let's first get rid of the 17. It's being multiplied, so divide both sides by 17. And you get the sine of C is equal to 14 sine of 92 over 17. The goal is to get the C by itself, so of course you have to get rid of the sine. So you do inverse sine on both sides. Those cancel out, leaving you with C. So to get angle C, we have to do the inverse sine of 14 sine 92 over 17. So calculator, inverse sine, I'm going to need a fraction. The numerator is going to have 14 sine 92. So 14 sine 92 over 17. So the answer is 55.4 if I round to the nearest tenth. So the measure of angle C is 55.4. Now go ahead and try the following, pause the video, then come back. I'm going to start by drawing my picture. Measure of angle B is 32. Measure of angle C is 51. Measure of side C is 12. And we're trying to find side A. So now notice that in order to do law of sine and cosine, in order to do law of sine, you have to have an angle and its side. And then if you're trying to find, let's say, angle B, you have to know side B. So this problem's a little bit different. Since we're trying to solve for side A, we first have to find angle A. And since you're given two angles, of course, you know the angle sum property, meaning the addition of the three angles in a triangle add up to 180. So 32 plus 51 plus angle A should equal 180. If you add these, you should get 83. And if you subtract 83 from both sides, you get 97. So the measure of angle A is 97. So now that we have that, we're able to find side A. Since we have angle C and side C, and now we have angle A, we're trying to find side A, we're going to use the following. So solve the proportion by cross multiplying. To solve for a, divide by sine of 51. And a is equal to the following. 12,597 divided by sine of 51. So the answer is 15.3 if we round to the nearest tenth. So that's the measurement for side A. So go ahead and try example 2. Of course, I'm going to start by drawing my picture. Measure of angle A is 25. Side A is 22. Side B is 18. We're trying to find the measure of angle B. So this is more straightforward, again, because you are given angle A and its side, and you're given side B, and you're trying to find angle B. So at the simple problem, so it'll be sine of A is equal to sine of A over A is equal to sine of angle B over side B. And if you plug it in, you get sine of 25 over 22 is equal to sine of theta over 18. So of course you cross multiply. To solve for theta, you first have to divide by 22 since it's being multiplied. To get rid of the sine, you do the inverse sine of both sides. So theta is equal to the inverse sine put that in the calculator and you are done. Inverse sine of 18 sine 25 divided by 22. So if we round to the nearest tenth, our answer is 20.2. So that right there is the measurement of angle B, which is 20.2. So next thing I need you guys to do is go ahead and read this, pause the video, see if you can answer it, so we can move on to our next part of the lesson. So the question is, what has to be given in order for us to be able to use the law of sines? So you should have said something along the lines of you have to know, for example, if you know angle A, you have to know side A. And if you're trying to find the measure of angle B, you have to know side B. So in other words, you have to know an angle and its side, and you have to know one of the other corresponding sides or angles of what you're trying to find. So another example, if you are given measure of angle C and side C, and if you are trying to find the measure of angle A, you should be given side A. So now that you know that, let's go to the following problem. So let's go ahead and solve for the triangle ABC. If the measure of angle A is 33, measure of angle B is 47, and side B is 14. So remember, by solving the triangle ABC, I'm looking for all the angle measurements and all side measurements. So let me start by drawing the triangle. Let's label the given. Okay, so if we're trying to find all the missing, we have to find the measure of angle C. We have to find measurement of side A. We have to find the measurement of side C. So pause the video, see what you would find first. So the very first thing I would do is solve for the missing angle, which is angle C. So of course, 33 plus 47 plus measure of angle C should give me 180. If I add these two, I get 80. And then if you subtract 80 from both sides, you get 100. Let me check my math real quick so I won't be wrong. Yeah, and it's 100 degrees. So now we have to find the measure of side A and side C. So since we are given angle B and side B, and we're trying to find, let's say, side A first. Let's use those two ratios using law of sines to solve for side A. So sine of B over side B is equal to sine of angle A over side A. And if I plug in, I get the following. Cross multiply. To solve for A, you divide both sides by sine of 47. Calculator. (14 sine of 33) divided by sine of 47. So the answer is 10.4 if we round to the nearest tenth. So we just found the measurement for side A, which is 10.4. So now the last thing we have to do is do the law of sine to find side C. So again, you can use any of the other given angles and sides. So let's set up the following ratio. Let me make some space. Oh, I don't know what happened. So let's set up our ratios. So let's use sine of angle B over side B is equal to sine of C over side C. So let's plug in. So we're trying to find side C this time. So C sine of 47 is equal to 14 sine of 100. To get the C by itself, divide both sides by sine of 47. C is equal to the following. 14 sine of 100 divided by sine of 47 is equal to 18.9 if I round to the nearest tenth. So we found the missing, and by that you solve the triangle. Now go ahead and solve for side C. If the measure of angle C is 20, side B is 5, and A is 11. So pause the video, try, and then come back. I'm going to start by drawing the picture. Measure of angle C is 20, measure of side B is 5, measure of angle side A is 11. So we are trying to find side C. So notice that on this problem you cannot do law of sines, because if we're trying to find side C, we have to be given angle C, which we are, but these two is what makes this problem not able to do law of sines. We have to be given angle B or angle A. So since you do not have enough information to set up two ratios using the following, at this time you do not know how to do this problem. So that's where the new lesson comes in. The second part of the lesson is the law of cosines. So whenever you are not given enough information to do law of sines, we're going to do law of cosines. So here are the formulas for law of cosines. So normally we were in school, these will be on your formula chart. So go ahead and write these down in your notes and refer to them for your homework assignments and on your other materials. So these three equations will help you solve for missing sides and missing angles. So obviously if you're trying to find angle A or side A, you'll use the first one. If you're trying to solve for side B or side B or angle B, you're going to use the second one. Or if you are trying to find angle C, here there's a mistake right here on the last one. This right here should be a cosine of angle C. So the third one you're going to use if you're trying to solve for side C or angle C. So now that you know your formulas, let's go ahead and attempt to find this problem. So we're going to find C, and after we have side C, we're going to find measure of angle A and B. So in other words, we're going to solve for the triangle. So since we're trying to solve for side C, we have to use the following formula. And of course, you could have started the problem by checking to see if law of sines was applicable, but of course, you cannot do law of sines on this problem. So let's plug in the given to see what we're trying to find. So everything should be plugged in except the lowercase c. This uppercase c is for the angle. So let's substitute. So we have c squared is equal to a squared, which is 11 squared, b squared, which is 5 squared, minus 2 times a, which is 11, times b, which is 5, times cosine of angle c, which is 20. So we have to get the c by itself. So this problem is pretty straightforward. To get the c by itself, you have to get rid of the square. So you square root both sides. You put all of that in the calculator, and you are done. So this one's a pretty easy problem. So let me put this in the calculator and see what the answer is. So the square root of 11 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 11 times 5 times the cosine of 20 degrees. And the answer is 6.5 if we round to the nearest tenth. So using the law of cosines, we just found the side C. So this is 6.5. So now that we have side C, we're able to find the measure of angle A. So now let's use the law of sines, now that we have enough information. So to make it easier, let's do law of sines to solve for measure of angle A. So to find the measure of angle A, we're going to do the following. And we're going to use sine C over side C since we know what angle C is. Let's plug in the given. So sine of angle A, we don't know A, but we do know its side. Angle C is 20 over side C, which is 6.5. We just found that out. So go ahead and do cross multiplication. Solve for angle A, so divide both sides by 6.5. To get the A by itself, do the inverse sine of both sides. So A will equal to 11 sine of 20 over 6.5. So inverse sine of 11 sine 20 divided by 6.5. Let me see if I plugged it in right. 11 sine 20. So it's 6.5 at the bottom. Okay, that looks more correct. So the answer is 35.4 if I round to the nearest tenth. $35.4. So we have our second angle. So to find the last angle, of course, you know the addition of the three angles add up to 180. So let me make some space for the math. .4 plus 20 plus angle B is equal to 180. If you add these two, you get 55.4 plus B is equal to 180. If you solve for B, you just subtract those two. And you get 124.6. And that's how you solve the triangle. Now go ahead and solve for, wait, let's do it together. Solve triangle ABC if you're given the following. First thing I want to do is draw my triangle. Let me label it. So the given, I'm given side A, which is 9, side B, which is 7, side C, which is 5. So we're trying to solve for the triangle. So we're trying to find all the missing, which is measure of angle A, measure of angle B, measure of angle C. So let's find the measure of angle A first. So I'm going to use the following formula from Law of Cosines to help me solve for the measure of angle A. So everything should be plugged in except this, so let's go ahead and start. So side A is 9, side B is 7, side C is 5. Okay, so we're using Law of Cosine to solve for the measure of angle A. So this problem's a little bit different. 9 squared is 81, 7 squared is 49, 5 squared is 25. So negative 2 times 7 times 5. So 14 times 5 is this, so it's going to be negative 68. That's not right. It's 70. So we're trying to solve for A. So first, let's combine the like terms. You get 74. Notice that you did not combine these two with the 70 because this 70 is being multiplied by the cosine. So to solve for A, you subtract 74 from both sides. You get 7. So 7 is equal to negative 70 cosine of A. That negative 70 is being multiplied by that cosine, so you divide both sides by it. So cosine of A is equal to 7 over negative 70. It does reduce, but let's not reduce it. We'll let the calculator get rid of that. So the last step to get the A by itself, you do the inverse cosine of both sides. And A is equal to the following. So cosine inverse of 7 70. Yep. So it is 95.7 if we round to the nearest tenth. So measure of angle A is 95.7. Now, after you have the measure of angle A, you are able to do law of sines now to find B or C. But to get more practice using law of cosines, let's do law of cosines to solve for measure of angle B. So we're going to use the following formula. So since we are trying to find angle B, everything should be substituted except the B. So let's substitute. Side B is 7. Side A is 9. Side C is 5. Okay, so let's do some math. 7 squared is 49, 9 squared is 81, 5 squared is 25. Then you multiply -2 times 9 times 5. -2 times 9 times 5, you get -90. You combine the like terms, and you get 106. And again, you do not do 106 minus 90 because that 90 is being multiplied by the cosine. So what you do next is subtract 106 on both sides. You get -57. Divide both sides by -90. And you get cosine of B is equal to +57/90. Last step to get the B by itself. So cosine inverse of 57/90. 50.7. So now you have two of the angles. To find the third, let's do it the easy way and do the, let's apply the sum of the angles in a triangle add up to 180, the angle sum theorem. So if I add those two, I'm going to get 95.7 plus 50.7 . 146.4. Subtract that from 180. You get 33.6. So we solve the following triangle. So go ahead and solve for measure of angle B, and then come back to the video. So we are going to find measure of angle B using law of cosines. So if I write down the formula, let's plug in everything to see what we're missing. Side B is 27, so 27 squared is equal to A squared, which is 19 squared. C squared is 24. So we're solving for measure of angle B, so we're going to do some math. 27 squared is 729. 90 squared is 361. 24 squared is 576. -2 times 19 times 24 is -912. Combine the like terms. $937. Subtract both sides by $937. To get the B by itself, divide both sides by 912. So cosine of angle B is equal to 208 divided by -912. The very last step, do inverse cosine of both sides. So the measure of angle B is going to equal to the inverse cosine of 208 divided by -912. So inverse cosine of 208 divided by 912. 103.2. And that's the measure of angle B. So So go ahead and try the final problem, pause the video, and then come back to see if your answer is correct. So first thing I'm going to check is to see if I can do the law of sine. And of course I can't, so I'm going to use law of cosines. So to find side C, I'm going to use the following. Everything should be substituted except this C right here, since we're trying to find side C. Side B is 12. And angle C is 42 degrees. So remember, to solve for sides using law of cosines, it's easier because to get the C by itself, you take the square root of both sides. And you just put all that in the calculator and you have your answer. So the square root of 14 squared plus 12 squared. Cosine of 42. So it is 9.5. So that is side C using the law of cosines. So this one was pretty long, so go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe.